Hello, everyone. This is Nemernan, and today is a sad video because, unfortunately, it would appear that I may be unable to complete this challenge. Now, I will definitely try to keep doing it in the background, but the videos centered on my progress with the challenge may have to slow down, due to the fact that I have had a massive losing streak during my attempt to get to 1550. I got as high as 1523 or 1530, I'm not sure, but I was always one game away from getting to 1550, and then I would lose. Whether it be to usual Pokemon nonsense or my own gameplay being suboptimal, it's a mix of the two, but regardless, what happened is that I eventually did fall all the way down to the 1330s. Where I eventually had to climb my way back up to the 1400s, but now it has become evident to me that this will not be easy. And I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I did at least thought that I could at least get 1550, and maybe I would decay and it would take like a really long time to get to 1600, but unfortunately I couldn't even reach 1550, so that is very sad. But like I said, I will not give up on this challenge just yet, but the videos centering on it will probably not happen until I actually hit another milestone, which will still be 1550 for the time being. That being said though, you obviously came to this video to see what teams I've been using and some replay showing the teams, so I will do just that. And I have quite a few new teams to show you that I've been trying to use, but all of them have their individual flaws, so let's just get into it. So, before I do this, I'm gonna go try and pull up some replays, so give me a quick sec to do that real quick. Alright, sorry about that, we're back now. But yeah, upon trying to get replays, I realized that unfortunately this bug team has not been, despite the name of the team, I haven't been able to get a good replay of it, because obviously it's low ladder. A lot of these teams that we'll see aren't really that well made, or really that impressive to be getting wins against, and it just doesn't really properly showcase what the teams can do, which is the main issue, truthfully. So, I won't be showcasing the bug team until I get a very good win with that, but the other three teams I will show you. So here we have Poison Semi-Stall with Spikes. So a lot of people in low ladder typically tend to struggle against Stall because they either don't have the breakers, or they lose their breakers or recklessly use their breakers very early. And Poison is a type that's very easy to do Stall with due to the fact that they're immune to getting Toxic unless they have a Salazzle. And also Poison has the regen core of Toxapex, Amoonguss, and Slowking Galar. Now this team doesn't have Amoonguss, but I instead opted for Pekka, and I'll explain why later. And Poison just generally can just slowly wear down a lot of types through their own Toxic and through, on this team specifically, Spikes. So let me get into this team. So the mods aren't really ordered in a good way to explain stuff, so I'm just going to jump all over the place to kind of explain. But the first mod I want to talk about is Overquill. So Overquill is actually, to me personally, a slightly slept on mod, due to the fact that it is one of Poison's best, I would say, overall leads, due to its access to Spikes and Toxic Spikes, and Bar Barrage just being a very good opener attack, if that makes sense. Because a lot of leads in of this style typically tend to lack an offensive move that makes a lasting impact, but Barb Barrage, on the other hand, is a really good move to have, because it can openly just poison the opposing Pokemon and start getting some chip damage in that way before you even start putting in the spikes, and it also just gets 2 times power if the target is already poisoned, which, if you're on a poison team, that's pretty easy to do. Now, unfortunately, I do think the spread I have on Overquill, I've tried a multitude of spreads. I've settled on this one for now, but I still think I need to do a different one. But I do ideally want to try and use a more offensive spread on Overquill, but the problem with the offensive spreads is that it usually is too squishy. even with Intimidate, it's still a bit too squishy, so I'm trying to still experiment with different types of spreads for Overquill. I almost landed on one before, but it got beaten by, I believe, a bug team, so I was not very happy about that, but yeah. That is almost it for Overquill. So the reason I have Toxic Spikes and Spikes on the same set is because I believe Toxic Spikes actually can provide a lot of pressure on teams that don't really have good hazard removal, because it would essentially make it so that any mon that is grounded and touches the spike will be affected by P.E.K.K.A. Run. Now, obviously, I know that there is one problem with using Toxic Spikes. What am I going to do? What is this mon going to do against flying? It really won't do much. It'll just use Barb Barrage on maybe Tornado Asterion if I get a Toxic on it, or some other mon, but yeah, it's not even that good against Gliscor either, but it will slow down its more bulkier sets. The non-Sword Dance sets specifically, it'll slow those down a little bit more, which is definitely good for this team because it doesn't really have a consistent Gliscor answer. But yeah, Overquill is definitely a nice mon. As a Dark Poison type, it's very good. It's just, it lacks consistent recovery, and is very reliant on Black Sludge to really stay in the game. Because I tried not using Black Sludge on this thing, and it was very obnoxious to use. So I decided that Black Sludge is probably one of the best items I can use on it. But yeah. And Crunch is obviously there to hit Psychic types, because we need to hit Psychic types with our Dark type, evidently. But yeah. This mon, I feel, is very slept on, and I do plan on still using this mon even if I have to change the entire team, because I believe this mon has the potential to do great things for this type. So yeah, that is it for Overquill. Now we can move on to Slowking Galler, which is just a standard set, standard special defense. Chilly Reception used to help pivot into Toxapex, Clodsire, or Overquill. Slow pivoting, very good. Slack Off, Ice Beam, and Future Sight are just very powerful to have, and Future Sight with one of our breakers, or not even a breaker, but with P.E.K.K.A. Run or Overquill is just very strong. And Ice Beam is always good against the multitude of flying types, and Gliscor specifically if you catch it on Switch, so yeah. Just very, very solid, and heavy duty boots obviously to stop the hazards. We're going to be seeing a lot of boots on this team, except on P.E.K.K.A. because P.E.K.K.A. is wearing our air balloon, and he is going to be our only balloon on the entire team. Typically, people usually do the balloon on either Clodsire, or I think they do it sometimes on Toxapex. And also Muck, I believe, sometimes uses it. But yeah, generally, P.E.K.K.A. is also a common donor of air balloon, but it's not usually that common. But yes, I decided to opt for Air Balloon on P.E.K.K.A. because it is the only thing that will slow down Gliscor from doing what it wants to do. And I believed in my head, the theory craft I had was that if I intimidate a non-Sword Stance Gliscor with Overquill, then I can ideally slow it down enough so that I can switch in P.E.K.K.A. and if the Gliscor has knockoff, which almost all of them do, it will get rid of my balloon, but because usually... Now, they do typically run Gliscor and Landers together, but in the event that that is not the case, I can still do a lot of damage to Gliscor due to the fact that P.E.K.K.A. has Hex, excuse me, and Nasty Plot, which will allow it to somewhat deal with Gliscor, and its defense is no joke, so yeah. But yeah, also P.E.K.K.A. is just a very good, it's basically defensive wall, and I felt like I needed another one of those since I had Clodsire and Slowking. And yes, Clodsire is especially defensive, rather than a mixed wall, due to the fact that I believe especially defensive is just better for my team. Speaking of good for my team, Toxapex. So Toxapex is notorious mon. Everyone hates dealing with this thing, but fortunately I'm not using the Infestation set that's been pretty popular on the ladder. I'm using it as a Surf set instead, because I do want to be able to hit ground types with this mon somewhat, so I will be experimenting to see if other moves are better, but for now I think Surf is probably the best thing. Toxic, Recover, Standard Spread, nothing really too crazy here. Now, Clodsire, Black Sludge, Water Absorb, and has low kick to stop Heatran from completely walling it, especially Balloon Heatran. And it also has Stealth Rock in conjunction with Overquill Spikes, because Stealth Rock is going to be our way of playing the flying matchup a little bit better. And obviously has Recover for recovery purposes, but yes, it is just a fat, especially defensive wall. Takes water type attacks really well, and doesn't really take psychic type attacks really well, but Overquill's supposed to be taking those anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's also nice for dealing with Urshifu, even though it's not the mixed wall set, which does that better. So yeah, Urshifu is actually a massive problem for Poison to deal with, but with Clodsire it's a bit easier. Yeah, especially since I'm not using Amogus as well. That should be noted. And the last spawn we have is Salazzle. So Salazzle kind of makes this a semi-stall team, due to the fact that it is a relatively fast and bulky mon on this type, but it's actually arguably the second most important Pokemon on this team. And that might seem insane at first glance, but let me explain. So Salazzle actually fulfills a very important role for my semi-stall team, and that is to basically stop setup sweepers. Because if you notice, none of the walls I have Unaware, and Toxapex is our only Hazer, but Toxapex can very easily get taken advantage of with certain types, especially Raging Bolt specifically. So, in order to combat this, Salazzle makes an appearance. Salazzle is able to use Encore, so if Raging Bolt decides that it wants to use Thunderclap, Salazzle has the option to, I have the option to outplay it with Substitute. And if it is locked into Thunderclap, I can Encore it, and since Salazzle is faster than it, it can just basically keep it locked into Thunderclap, and Salazzle can just kind of like watch it suffer as it toxics it. Salazzle is also really good against Steel, especially the fatter Steel teams with Hisui and Gudra. It will always get a Toxic off on any of its mons, and the Flamethrower Encore will ruin some of the walls on the types, such as Corviknight with the Bulk Up set, and also Skarmory with Hazards. Salazzle is just very annoying for Steel to deal with in general, unless they have Empoleon. Empoleon kind of makes this mon a little hard to use, but yeah. Salazzle is very strong in the Steel matchup, which can be very annoying for this type to deal with sometimes. And also into enemy Poison, it's also pretty good as well, since Poison, as you know, is a slightly slowish type, so Encore Toxic is very powerful in that as well. And Salazzle just kind of keeps this team from being too passive, or just, it makes it hard for the team to get taken advantage of really easily, because stall teams typically tend to get taken advantage of if they're not perfectly crafted, but Salazzle just fills in enough roles to prevent this from happening to this team. But as I said, it has to be classified as semi-stall, I believe, because I don't really think Salazzle is that stally. Especially since it has very limited recovery, and there's no real way to really keep it healthy in the fight, so I believe this is semi-stall because of that. It would be full stall if I had full utility moves, but I do not. But yeah, that is it for the Poison team. Now we can move on to the Grass team, which I actually tried a lot with this Grass team, but I still don't think I'm very happy with it, obviously because I'm 1400s currently, but yes, let's talk about it. So, Ogerpon Heartflame, very broken mon, very good. I don't really need to talk about it. Just Power Whip over Horn Leech because I need the extra power, and Play Rough for dealing with dark types. So Abomasnow is probably the thing you're looking at when you saw this team. Yes, I'm actually a very big proponent of Abomasnow on grass, because Abomasnow allows you to combat quite a few of the annoying things in this tier, namely Sunfire, and also helps you deal with some niche rain users as well. Because even though you are resistant to rain, getting the rain off the field can prevent stuff like Hurricane from being perfectly accurate. So this can really mess up stuff like Pelipper, for example. But yeah, Abomasnow is basically here to act as a slight physically defensive pivot, and it it kind of can take ice-type attacks pretty decently, but the problem is that most of those ice-type attacks are special, and it's not very bulky on the special side. So I am thinking of maybe switching it to specially defensive, since I do have a physically defensive mod in Sinistra. So I'll look into that after this video, but for now, Abomasnow is just taking advantage of the fact that Snow plus investing into defense allows it to be a very, well, not very bulky physical wall, but it allows it to take physical hits pretty decently well. And with its ability to take those hits, it can use Body Press, which is boosted by the Snow, by the way, and Aurora Veil to make it so that the rest of my mons are super scary. Ice Shard and Blizzard are also there just to offer proper damage threat. Blizzard, obviously, because of the perfect accuracy in Snow, and Ice Shard due to its priority. Now, this superior set is actually stolen, as you can probably tell by the nickname, from a player, I forget their name, but a player on the Rising Sets forum posted this superior set, and it's a pretty standard superior set in other tiers, but Monotype hasn't really used superior that much. So much to the point that I believe it doesn't even have an analysis for Monotype, which is insane. But yes, Superior is actually still a pretty decent mon on this type. And with screens, it's even more oppressive due to the fact that it can basically tank stuff that it really has no right tanking. Such as Draco Meteors and +1 outrages from stuff like Dragonite. It can just start taking those really easily, and then heal a lot with Leech Seed and Substitute and Leftovers. And Contrary makes it very hard to punish this mon properly, because if you want to try and lower its special attack, oh, you actually just boosted it. And Webs also is slightly countered by this thing due to it just basically giving Superior a free +1 speed, which for an already fast mon, probably don't want to do that. So yeah, Superior is just like a slightly anti-cheese mon, even though it itself is kind of a cheesy mon. But yeah, it basically stops a lot of stuff from being annoying. That being said, it's not super consistent because it is very reliant on Glare Gang paralysis, full paralysis procs, and sometimes the yellow magic just doesn't happen. And your Superior set just looks slightly useless. But generally, you will get at least 1 or 2 procs before Superior gets to 0% HP, and you can start doing Superior stuff after that. And as I said before, the screens also makes it a lot easier for Superior to do that. Leaf Storm allows you to ramp up really quickly and become a very big threat, because even with your lackluster special attack, and even with no investment, it still hits decently hard, especially once it gets to +6, which is very easy to happen, as long as you hit them, because it is 90% accurate, so you have to be careful with that. But yeah, Superior is pretty good, and I do enjoy its presence on this team, because it does actually fulfill a pretty decent role in being basically like a kind of mixed-ish wall. It's not really a wall per se, but it definitely does switch into stuff very nicely. Neutral hits specifically. And it switches into them pretty decently in case I don't want to use Abomasnow or Sinistra. But yes. Superior, very good. Next up we have Brambleghast. Brambleghast is just here for Rapid Spin. That's really it. Rapid Spin, and it also has spikes. So yeah, this is literally a sample set. I don't really... Oh, and Wind Rider is definitely going to be used a lot over Infiltrator, because I believe Wind Rider is very good against Tornadus T, and I was thinking I was going to get High Ladder eventually, so I was going to be seeing a lot of Tornadus Therian, and this thing completely demolishes Tornadus Therian, even with knockoff, because it just cannot use 2 of its moves against it. And it'll get an attack boost if it does use one of those moves. So yeah, it's really, really, really good. But yeah, moving on, we have Torterra. Now Torterra is actually surprisingly really solid mon, and paired with screens from Abomasnow, it's actually really, really powerful. Especially with the loaded dice. With Shell Smash, after 1 Shell Smash, you can actually do quite a bit of damage to a lot of teams, especially now that a lot of teams aren't as offensive that they were before. Torterra's Shell Smash with its maximum speed, even though it is slow, it's still pretty fast and can outspeed a lot of the stuff that you actually want to outspeed. So, for example, at 422 speed, it perfectly outspeeds Dragapult by 1 point after a Shell Smash. And that's if assuming Dragapult is plus speed nature. Which some of them aren't, so yeah. But Torterra is just generally really fast after that Shell Smash, and crucially outspeeding stuff like Choice Specs Flutter Mane, Choice Band or Choice Specs Greninja or Meowscarada. Just outspeeding those things, it's just very beneficial after the Shell Smash, and obviously it hits like a truck afterwards as well. Because even though it's a 109 base attack, it still hits really hard because of bullet speed plus loaded dice, because you're hitting with a 100 to 125 base power move, and if you've ever used Hawlucha, you know how important high stab or high base power moves can be to make up for lackluster attack stats. So yeah, it's very strong. And this moveset that I have is pretty much perfect. It's a sample set, but it's still, for what it needs to do on my team, it's very strong. It's a very strong win condition or threat. Speaking of threats, Sinistcha is my fire switch-in. And it's not particularly a great one, because it usually hits a lot of the fire moves that you want to take are special, except for Pokemon Hearthflame, but unfortunately Hearthflame does have the Mold Breaker, which makes it so that it ignores Heat Proof, unfortunately. But you do still have the Strength Sap, and the ability to set up and sweep with Machigacha and Shadow Ball. Generally, very annoying mon to deal with, and with screens, even more obnoxious. So, yeah. Torterra and Sinistcha are very good win conditions, and Serperior kind of just is a progress forcer. Bramblegast does Rapid Spin, and Ogerpon Heartflame is just there because it's really strong. I might switch it to Ogerpon Cornerstone though, depending on how I feel ladder treats me with my type matchups, because Cornerstone would be a lot better against the flying teams that I sometimes run into. And that thing behind screens, along with it having Sturdy, would be very dangerous for a lot of flying teams to deal with, as opposed to Hearthflame, who isn't as dangerous. So, yeah. But yeah, that's it for the grass team, and now let's move on to the last team that I made, which was Hyper Offensive Rock. So this team I actually did steal from another player that beat me on the ladder with it. It's basically Hyper Offensive Rock with, I don't think I perfectly copied the team, but it's Hyper Offensive Rock with Minior and Lead Lycanroc Dusk. Lead Lycanroc Dusk basically does standard stuff that you would expect. Focus Sash takes the Endeavor, then Accelerox to try and get a cheesy KO. Now, generally you won't get that KO, but I did get messed up by this set because I wasn't expecting it to have both Endeavor and Taunt. So it's basically it reminds me of an old Infernape set that used to run back in like Gen 6, I think, on fighting. Gen 6 or 7. But yeah, back then, Infernape would use Stealth Rock, Mach Punch, Endeavor, Taunt, pretty much the exact same thing as this, but replace Mach Punch with Accelerock, and it would just try and get some cheese kills like that with the Focus Sash. But yeah, this set is basically just a minor nuisance, but it gets Stealth Rock out and allows Tyranitar to use a more especially defensive set like this Assault Vest set that I have right here. I'm not 100% sure if this is what was run on the team that I went against, but I decided that I was going to use this instead. He has very generally powerful moves like Avalanche, Heavy Slam, Knockoff. Rock Tomb was used by the player. I personally would use something else. I would probably use Rock Slide instead, but I was just copying the team, so I didn't really think too hard about it. Iron Boulder is Choice Scarf with standard moves. It's actually a pretty normal set, nothing to really speak of here. Ogerpon Cornerstone, same deal. Horn Leash used specifically to get you back into sturdy range. And Arcanine, I actually wasn't sure what choice item the Arcanine had, but I opted to go for a Choice Band since I believe Choice Band is just very powerful, and I think I had enough speed control with Ogre Pawn, Iron Boulder, and Minior. Speaking of Minior, this Mon actually did a lot of work against me when I was using it. I forget what type I was using. I think it might have been Grass I was using. But yeah, this Mon did a lot of damage to me, because after I sent in something that I thought would take both of its offensive moves, it used Explosion on me, and I just got KO'd. Now, the problem with this Mon has always been its shield down ability. It's very hard to proc this consistently, and sometimes it just won't work, especially if you use White Herb after your Shell Smash, because your shield's up form just lets you take a lot more hits than you would think, and it'll leave you like 3 or 2% HP above the threshold, and it'll just make your sweep a lot less good. So yeah, this Mon is very inconsistent, but I assume it's going to be Pilot Gap because that person got to 1500s and is climbing higher with that team. So I definitely just need to get used to using this. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this team. I haven't really used it that much, but I do have a replay with it, showcasing what it's capable of. Oh, and Explosion is there just to, once you're finished with your sweep, you just have an option to go boom and do a lot of damage to whatever is in your face. So long as it's not a ghost type. Even steel types take a decent bit of damage, but yeah. That's it for this. And that'll be it for the team review, so now we'll move on to the replays. First replay we have is against Poison, or against Electric. Again, this is low-ish ladder, so it's not really anything to be too critical of when it comes to plays. So yeah, I just set up spikes. He sends out Rotom Wash. I send in Cloudsire because I don't want to deal with the burn specifically, so that way I can use Barb Barrage a little bit more. But in hindsight, getting a Cloudsire burn was probably not ideal. He decides to use Volt Switch on my Cloudsire, which I thought was insane, but yeah. He puts out Regieleki. I put in Pekka to block the Rapid Spin. Turns out that they decide to go for the Thunderbolt instead, so this person is already inside my head, and he uses Rapid Spin on the next turn. So yes, this guy is reading me like a book. But fortunately, I do have ways to get back. So I do put the Stealth Rocks back down, as I swap into Pekka, who takes an Ice Punch from Palma. Thankfully didn't get frozen, but it will get KO'd by the Double Shock subsequently, which is unfortunate. Overquill comes back in and makes Palmont a little bit useless. We see Rotom come in as the Barb Barrage goes off. No poison, sadly, but we will see Cloudsire come back in as Will-O-Wisp goes through. So we essentially just wait to see what Rotom does, and Rotom doesn't do anything. I thought he would hard switch out, but he just kept using Volt Switch. And he keeps using Volt Switch. Now, I believe this set does have Toxic on it, so I'm not sure why I'm not using it yet. It's because I'm definitely expecting him to use or hard swap to someone else. So, yeah. I decided that I was done with it. I actually need to check if I was Toxic on that set, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, the Future Sight is used by Slowking. As a Full Touch finally goes off, Zapdos comes in. And I Chilly Reception out into Salazzle. So I opted to use Toxic immediately. I thought that there would be no way he could hit Hurricane on me due to snow being present, but fortunately he still hit Hurricane on me. So I opted to leave. Slowking comes in. We see the U-turn come out from Zapdos as I use Future Sight on Slowking. We did get Cloudsire to come in through Chilly Reception as the Rocks is removed. Future Sight is taken by Zapdos. I might move up the speed a little bit, but yeah. This game is obviously going to take a while since I'm using Poison. Nothing explosive I can do. Yeah, Rapid Spin is used. I use Chilly Reception again to proc my Regenerator. Rotom Wash is sent out. I use Stealth Rock. Future Sight hits the Rotom again, but Rotom does have leftovers, so it's going to be hard to make a little bit of progress on him like that. Raging Bolt finally comes out. He does use Calm Mind. I opt for Ice Beam, and Ice Beam does not freeze. So I'm in a very tough situation here. But I use Future Sight. I go straight into Salazzle. Very risky by me, by the way, but I do manage to catch him. He knows... Actually, I don't think he knew that I had Encore, but... Yeah, Salazzle does come out. I swap back into Slowking. Zapdos heals itself. Thunderbolt is used, but doesn't really do that much as I Future Sight. I use Slack Off to keep my HP high on Slowking, even though I do have Regenerator. I probably have Chilly Reception here. Yeah, I Chilly Reception. Go into Salazzle. And I Encore the Zapdos into Roost so that it can't do anything else, like use a U-turn on me. So I opt to Substitute. Zapdos comes back out, but the Flamethrower has already come out, and Zapdos will get KO'd in the next turn. Regieleki comes out, Clodsire comes in, no Thunder Wave for him. As the Rotom Wash does come out, Earthquake is used. I think I actually just don't have Toxic on this set. Because it definitely should have been used like multiple times already. So yeah, probably doesn't have Toxic. But yeah, Thunderbolt. Rapid Spin does come out since Pectorant is gone. Rotom Wash comes back out. Future Sight does a ton of damage to Rotom. Now, unfortunately, I don't think the Low Kick... actually, don't use Low Kick, I use Recover instead. But Slow King does come out. Very easily takes the hit from Rotom. As I Slack Off, and I would probably use Future Sight into Chilly Reception again. Yep. Except I probably switch out immediately. Oh no. I stay in, and I Slack Off. Probably a better play. And him burning my Slowking actually made it so that it was easier to play this game. Because with Slowking burnt, it means it can't paralyze me, and that means no yellow magic, which is very good for me. So Thundurus just did a ton of damage to my Slowking, so I already know that it's probably choiced. And I just opt to use Low Kick. Yeah, I definitely don't have Toxic on this set. There's no way I wouldn't have used it by now. Yeah, Overquill comes in, once again making the Palmot useless due to Intimidate and Full's physically defensive. Like, look at how little damage Palmot does. Yeah, Barbarosh does get the KO. And we see Regieleki come back out again. Regieleki does spin. And it tries to use Volt Switch cheesily, but I just decide I'm not dealing with it. Rapid Spin comes out again. Earthquake does 49%. He keeps trying to use Volt Switch on me, but I refuse to swap out. Now, I'm probably running out of Earthquake PP at this point. Actually, I'm not. I still have a lot, but... Yeah, I'm just very annoyed at the fact that this guy just keeps staying in and removing my rocks, because obviously I want to keep those up. But yes, we get the Regieleki roll and KO it. And Raging Bolt comes out. I immediately go into Salazzle. Very risky, again, because he could have just used Thunderbolt. But yeah, I was definitely forced to Encore there. There's no way I could play around that. Yeah, the following I'm about to do is very risky. Because, obviously, my Clodsire is burnt, so I can't really do anything. Toxapex does come out. I get the Toxic on Raging Bolt. And I decide that I'm going to risk it by playing the 50-50 mind games with Raging Bolt. Because so long as I keep Clodsire alive, I will actually win eventually against his Thundurus. So yeah. He's -3, I think? Yeah, no, he's -4, I think. -4 special attack. I go back into Clodsire. Clodsire, I believe, does survive this Dragon Meteor. Yes, it survives it comfortably. I put up rocks instead of recovering though, which is very not great. But I go back into Slow King, and Slow King takes it just fine. The Toxic is slowly wearing down Raging Bolt as it starts Calm Minding, but obviously that will not do anything. So what I should be doing with Slow King here is oh, never mind, it died too quickly. But yeah, I go straight into Cloudsire, and Cloudsire has Black Sludge, so it cannot get KO'd. And I just recover my HP, and he knows at this point that he cannot win. So yeah, he just gives up, and that's the winning of the game. But yeah, that was a lot for Poison, but yeah, that's part of the problem with Poison, is that the games take really long, and if I don't win, it's brutal. So yeah, that's an example of how this team can work against an annoying team like this. Next up we have a Rock replay against Grass. So we see the Ogrepon Hearthflame lead. I put up Stealth Rock immediately. Instantly taunt the Amoonguss to prevent the sleep, but it actually opts for Foul Play instead. So I endeavor and bring down Amoonguss's HP to quite a low amount. As Arcanine comes in, Arcanine pretty much gets a free KO whenever it comes in because of how strong it is with the Choice Band. So that thing was probably heat-proof, and it was not able to take it, so yeah, I stayed in and Flare Blitzed, but yes, the Tailwind is very scary because now Bramble Guest is extra powerful. As you see from the Power Whip KO, Ogrepon does come out though, and due to Sturdy, it does survive, as the Ivy Cudgel will be able to KO Bramble Guest because it is not known for its hit-taking ability. You see, and because Windscott is gone, the Tailwind is no longer there, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Amoonguss does come out, as I Mighty Cleave. The Mighty Cleave will be able to KO Amoonguss, so he opts to switch out, and he gives up his Ogrepon Hearthflame. Amoonguss comes in, and I don't want to risk getting slept, so I put in Tyranitar. And Synthesis gets stifled by Sandstorm, so I opt to get rid of the Rocky Helmet as well. As he keeps trying to Synthesis, I think this goes on for a little bit, so yeah, I just keep doing that. And Tyranitar finally goes to bed, as he uses one of his few Synthesis uses left. Shell Smash goes through, but I don't really do anything because, again, Minior is inconsistent. So I do Mighty Cleave with Iron Boulder again. Tyranitar comes out, and I'd have to get a read on here, so I double back into Iron Boulder, predicting him to Masquerade swap, and I do get it. He swaps back into Amoonguss, but I make an extra read here. Oh no, I actually don't. I go for the Mighty Cleave again, but yeah, I stay, and I greed really hard to survive this foul play, and I live it on 1 HP. And yes, thankfully, because I got rid of that Rocky Helmet earlier, I was able to do that play. But yes, this is I think this is slightly lucky. I don't know what the exact roll was on that foul play, but it was definitely lucky. But yeah, let's move on to the next replay. Now we have Grass versus Flying. This should be a brutal matchup, but you'll see why it's not in a bit. So, instantly go into Torterra because I know he's going to try Thunder Wave me. People love doing that. Instant Shell Smash by Torterra, as I do Rock Blast the Thunderous, and it does get KO'd. Corviknight does come in. I do not stay in, I go into Abomasnow, because I thought that Corviknight would be a more physically defensive set, but it actually is the bulk up set instead. I put up Aurora Veil on Abomasnow to take some hits, and we start playing the lottery. The Glare comes through, instant para on turn 1, and Superior can start doing its nonsense. Now mind you, if he had even hit me once or twice those couple of times, it still wouldn't have done that much to Superior. But yes, the Hawlucha is actually adamant here, so he actually gets outsped by Superior. And yeah, just like that, he opts to give up, because Superior is just that kind of mod. But don't worry, there's one last replay. with grass, and it's against steel. So yes. We leave with Bramblegast, trying to look for an instant spike opportunity. We do get the spikes off and pop Heatran's Balloon. I'm very riskily playing my Bramblegast here, by the way. But yes, Ogerpon Heartflame does come out. Now, I thought he was going to switch out into something else, but he actually did not do that. So I actually do not get to do the thing I wanted to. And Goldingo comes out. I immediately know it's Scarf because there's no way it's not. And Abomasnow is actually able to take the hit surprisingly well. Or Veil comes out, but Corviknight is Defog on this set. Or actually, no, he's not. He's a Bulk Up set. But the substitute is very annoying for me because I obviously cannot do a lot of damage to Corviknight, even with... Now, thankfully, this Corviknight was Mirror Armor and not Pressure, otherwise I think Serperior straight up loses here. But the substitute does come out again, and it's really hard for me to deal with this. We do fade the substitute, and I finally get the glare off, which is all I needed. Because now with the glare, I can start putting up the Leech Seed, and we can start playing the lottery again. And I put up my substitute. He tries to Brave Bird, but it does not do anything because it only hits my substitute. And just like that, we are playing Serperior's game. Because I will just spam Glare on dead turns. So yeah, and he realizes this and he doesn't want to play out the game. But yeah, just both replays showing how obnoxious Serperior can be, but not pictured is the times that Serperior just kind of gets run over by strong offense. But yeah, that's what I have been up to this past week. Now, next week, I'm not sure what kind of video I'll do. Maybe I'll do a meme instead. Or maybe I might get 15-50 in a challenge, who knows. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I'll be posting next week. But hopefully, it will be something a little more positive and a little more bright. But yes, that will be it for today's video. I wish you guys a very good weekend, and if you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, have a good one. And when this video is uploaded, it will be Pi Day, so happy Pi Day, and have a very, very good day.